The view outside the ship's window was indescribable. My ship had quite a small window, littered with scratches and small dings from space debris. The female Earthling's window was a whole new experience. Large and clear as crystal, it was as if I could reach and pluck out the stars. The female Earthling sat beside me in the red captain's chair. She seemed more concerned with polishing the curved blade that laid across her lap than the view. She glanced up at me from time to time, but I did my best to keep my eyes focused out the window.
I put it in myself. The original design didn't call for windows.
Who flies a ship without windows?
Someone with no need for them.
She stared at me, and I worried that she could sense how nervous I was, which made me more nervous. Why she allowed me aboard her ship weighed heavy in my thoughts, so I did my best to mask the wobbling fear of my words. How did you come to own such a magnificent vessel?
Tosca.
Is that who you purchased it from?
It's the name of my ship, and I took it.
I used my sleeve to wipe the sweat off my neck.
Now tell me why you've been tracking me.
You knew? The female Earthling pointed at the wall.
Always. Now flip that switch.
After a few attempts, I located the proper switch. The monitor nearest me quickly filled with beacons and probes of all sizes and colors.
As you can see, I have some experience with being tracked.
Why are there so many?
Earth junkies. Seems the whole universe is searching for it these days.
And they assume you know the way.
Well, with me being an Earthling and all.
So you do know the way. She rubbed her chin and studied me, but never responded. I turned towards the monitor and searched for 2 probes in particular. It took a few moments to find them. 2 identical probes, their blue lights blinking ever so softly. I owed a lot to those probes. They always led me back to the female Earthling when I became lost. It was strange that she would allow such a chink in her armor. If an amateur like me could use those probes to track her. The twins, I whispered. She pointed out the window at the 2 probes.
You mean Tweedledee and Tweedledum? They've been following me forever.
I used them to find my way back to you, I admitted. Why not destroy them?
Oh, I tried, but those 2 managed to stay out of range. Eventually, I gave up.
I climbed back into my chair. And the owner of those probes wishes to find Earth as well?
More than most.
May I ask who owns them?
Kilroy,
she said. And who is this Kilroy? Her eyes tightened.
Are you saying you don't know who that is?
I felt a bit embarrassed. Should I? The female Earthling slowly rose from her chair and aimed her curved blade at my chest.
Again, why are you tracking me?
Sweat gathered at my brow. As I said, I simply hoped you could show me the way to Earth. She raked her fingers through her hair.
But why?
The transmissions, I said. It is how we learn to speak your languages, dress like you, design our cities like yours, attempt to make food like yours. Though that has proved difficult for obvious reasons. Her eyes wandered the room. I know it might be strange, I continued, but your culture fascinates us dearly. Meeting you is the single biggest event in our species' history. Bigger than meeting Santa Claus. Her eyes snapped back.
Santa Claus?
Is it true that only the very special ones get to meet him?
You believe in Santa Claus?
Of course. Every Jutsulky does. The female Earthling lowered her blade and headed out of the cockpit. I waited, unsure where she had gone or why. It was quiet without her, and I wondered if she allowed me to tag along simply because she desired company. Earthlings were social creatures, so it was safe to assume she was lonely. After a few moments, she returned with a book in her hand.
Since I won't be taking you to Earth, maybe this will suffice.
She tossed the book into my lap. It was a journal. Her journal! A book filled with all the female Earthling's amazing adventures and personal thoughts? I assumed, of course. I swept my hand over the tarnished metal cover. It would be an honor. I could never repay.
Entry 44. Read it.
Thank you. I hope you can understand how much this means.
It's a big deal. I get it.
She headed back to the ship's controls and stared out the window.
You can sleep in the room down the hall. I suggest you get rest for your return home.
Home? We're going back to Terra? Together? She let out a frustrated sigh.
Are you always this excitable?
Some have suggested I may be a bit overzealous at times. The female Earthling nodded. What would they say when I, Dean Kilmer, returned home with the female Earthling? I was kind of afraid to find out.